All right, today we're talking about, is SEO dead in the age of AI? My guest is Jason Barnard. He is a longtime expert in SEO and now generative AI, search engine optimization. I'll tell you more about him in a second, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Smart Business Revolution podcast, where we feature top entrepreneurs, business leaders, and thought leaders and ask them how they built key relationships to get where they are today. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the host of this show, and you know, if you've listened before, that every week we have smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs from all kinds of companies. We've had Kinko's and YPO, EO, Activation Blizzard, Gusto, Grubhub, Netflix, you name it. Check out the archives. Lots of great episodes for you to check out. And this episode, of course, is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses to give to and connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. How do we do that? We do that by helping you to run your podcast and content marketing. You're the easy button for any company to launch and run a podcast. We do three things: strategy, accountability, and full execution. And we even invented what some are calling the Wix of B2B podcasting. It's our platform, Podcast Copilot. So if you want to learn more about what we do, you can go to our website, rise25.com, or email us at support@rise25.com. All right, my guest here today is Jason Barnard. He's a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author. He's a keynote speaker. He's an innovator. He is the CEO and founder of Kalicube, which is a digital branding consultancy. It operates out of France and the US and helps business leaders and entrepreneurs and decision makers to figure out how search engines and AI platforms work together. And he's got 2 decades experience in digital marketing. He's got a great story about how he got into it, which we're going to get into in a moment. But mostly what I was most interested in talking about here today is as AI and the LLMs, limited language models, are becoming more and more popular, what does that mean for Google? What does that mean for traditional search engine optimization and for the way that people get found on the web? There's lots of people that are saying the sky is falling. There's other people who are saying that the sky isn't falling, or rather, it's not falling yet. It might fall at some point in the future. And so we're trying to get to the bottom of that question. So Jason, really excited to have you here today. And I was reading this story that you wrote a couple of weeks ago about this blue dog cartoon character that you developed. And it was a story about how this was kind of your presence, your identity online. You developed this company, you got 1 billion views online, that's on level with like Disney and PBS and all this kind of stuff. Just got a ton of presence. And, rightly so, I would have thought, this is amazing what I created. And you would think that people would appreciate that. But when you sold the company and you went out and started to do digital marketing and started to do SEO, what you found is that was kind of the old you, which was weighing you down. So I'd love to hear the story of, first of all, what the company was, the blue dog, Boowa. And then we'll get into how it kind of weighed you down when you're trying to redefine how the world saw you online.
Right, brilliant. Thank you, John. In fact, there was a double whammy, and there is a thing that says get caught out once, fair. Get caught out twice, yeah, okay. Get caught out 3 times, you're a fool. I got caught out twice. The first time is the blue dog, and that was, as you say, the interesting story is I had a company called Up to 10. It was an ed tech platform. We had 1 billion page views in 2007. We were competing with the BBC, with PBS, with Disney. And although I owned the company and I was the CEO and I was signing deals with ITV International, Playhouse Disney, I was also the voice of the blue dog in the cartoon. And that's what I was known for. And I loved it. I thought that was cool. But then when I pivoted, of course, Google just kept saying, Jason Barnard's a cartoon blue dog. So potential clients would see that and say, well, actually, he isn't authoritative. I can't trust him with my business.
Yeah. It's just crazy because you built this thing that got 1 billion eyeballs. I mean, that is like top 0.1% of all the people out. You have so much more credibility. I would have thought, you have so much more credibility than anyone else out there who hasn't built something that got 1 billion eyeballs.
But that was exactly the problem. It didn't say 1 billion eyeballs. It said, he's a blue dog.
He's a blue dog. Yeah.
And so what
Yeah.
I needed to do was reframe it to say, he's a blue dog, and that blue dog got a billion eyeballs, and he was the guy who made it happen.
Right.
And that's quite a long leap for people to make from I'm seeing somebody who is trying to help my company with their digital marketing. And the problem that I had was that the conclusion, he can get a billion eyeballs, wasn't being presented by Google. Google was saying he's just a voiceover artist.
Yeah. So you came to this realization after you were making proposals, you were
Yeah.
talking to companies about working with them, and then they just wouldn't hire you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably lost about $1 million in deals
Wow.
over several years before, number one, I understood exactly what was going on. And number two, the time it took me to sort it out. And what was going on is I would go into meetings with real people in real life. I would convince them, I would say, I can build this up. I can make this happen for you. I can help your business. I can beat Google. I can win the Google game for you. I would walk out and they'd be going, yeah, brilliant. We're on board. And then they would Google my name and it said, Jason Barnard is a voiceover artist. He's a
Mm,
cartoon blue dog. And they're
mm,
suddenly saying, well, why would I trust this guy who's obviously this kind of, I don't know, flaky voiceover artist
hmm hmm
with my business strategy? And the answer
mm.
is no, I wouldn't.
As opposed to CEO of a ed tech startup that was phenomenally successful that you'd exited. So you
Yeah.
basically figured out you needed to redefine how you were viewed online. So tell me what you went through, what you did.
And that's the thing, it's reframing a story. So I'm not creating anything new. I'm just reframing what happened is that I didn't focus on the blue dog. I focused on the successful entrepreneur, the billion page views, the deals with Disney, the deals with ITV studios, and the competition with PBS.
Hmm
And that's what we do at Kalicube is we say, well, okay, what have you done in your life that makes you valuable to your ideal audience today?
hmm
And how can we frame what you've done in your life to bring you advantage in that relationship? And once we've framed that, how do we then prove it both to your audience and to the machines? And that's what I did, is I
And
just reframed my story. Sorry,
how
go
often
ahead.
do you find when you work with clients or you look at someone's online presence, do you find that their online presence is not what it should be? Or another way of putting
Oh,
that, that they haven't talked about or they haven't boasted about, they haven't shared, they haven't communicated the the value, the credibility, the credibility markers that should be elevating them and explaining to the world the credibility that they truly have.
literally every time.
Yeah.
There are no exceptions.
Yeah.
Um, whoever you are, the AI, Google, and indeed your audience don't understand quite how incredibly impressive you are.
Mm.
You might think that you've communicated it incredibly well. It isn't clear online, it isn't consistent online, and it isn't consistent over time. And that is where the key lies,
Mm.
is that number one, I probably don't frame it right. Number two, I probably don't communicate it consistently. And number three is I don't really prove it. I say it. I mean, I've had clients and they say, we're the best flower selling business in France. I
Hmm
say to them, prove it.
Yeah.
All our clients say it.
Mm.
But give me a page online that shows me that that's true.
hmm
And they simply couldn't do it.
Mm.
And then over 3 or 4 years, we built up a strategy. We claimed, framed, and proved, and we can talk about that later. And all of a sudden, they're outranking Interflora.
Mm.
Small French company outranking Interflora. Bingo. And
Wow.
that is, we are the best. We are the solution to getting flowers to your family member or your friend or your loved one The day we say, with the most beautiful bouquet, where they're going to think you're the best person in the entire universe for sending those flowers, and we can prove it.
So let's talk about this in terms of we're recording this and we're going into the second half of 2025. And so we have ChatGPT, we have Perplexity, we have Gemini, we have all these different AI tools that are, some say, changing the game. How much has the game changed?
The game's kind of been added to. I was talking to Fabrice Canal a couple of years ago, and he was saying that Microsoft Copilot, he's the principal program manager at Bing, and he was saying actually supply creates its own demand, which as an economist, which was my initial degree back in the day when I was young in Liverpool, supply creates its own demand is a fundamental aspect of economics.
What does that mean? English major here, so you have to dumb it down further.
It means that if you give somebody something new to use, they will use it in addition to what they were already doing.
Okay.
So if you say to somebody, here's a machine, you can have a conversation with it, and it will guide you to the solution to your problem. It will help you write, it will help you code, it will help you don't know what else it does. It will help you write your emails. It will summarize your emails. It will make your day-to-day life easier. That's an additional service that we didn't have before. Search doesn't disappear because this new service has appeared. What does happen is that people still use search, but they use ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot, Perplexity in addition to.
Interesting. And I don't know what the data are from this year, but I know that I saw that Google's traffic in 2024 last year went up by 20% over the previous year.
Yeah, and SEMrush just did a huge study where they're showing that search has gone up alongside use of AI assistive engines, as I call them. I think what is true today is new people are being brought into the arena, and the people who are already in the arena are suddenly thinking, well, I can do this and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and they're expanding their usage. What will happen is people will gradually get used to the idea that search is pretty clunky. I have to actively ask a question, go through the links, figure out which one I want to look at. And little by little, people will start to realize you can just ask ChatGPT or Google AI mode to summarize.
And so
at that point,
and that point is one that has been fiercely debated. There's a story recently, Cloudflare came out and said that we need to change the economics of the web because publishers are not going to get traffic. And for the longest time, Google's promise has been that we'll send traffic to these websites. And then websites and publishers and service providers are, fearful that that they're not going to get people that are coming to their website because they're inquiring about a particular service. What are your thoughts on all of that? How's that going to affect publishers, and how's it going to affect the economics for people that have websites that have been putting out content for a long time?
Well, if you're a pure publisher who is publishing content like USA Today have famously now just blocked, that's your business model. You're in trouble. However you look at it, however you manage it, you're in trouble. If you're trying to sell something, it doesn't matter. Because the point isn't, do I get people coming to my website? The point is, do I make a sale at the end of the day? So you've got kind of two schools of thought now, or two
very different approaches, I guess. Yeah.
And I think the publishers are getting a lot of press coverage because they are the publishers.
Sure, and they write about these topics. Yeah.
So yes, there's a huge problem for them, but no, there isn't a huge problem for anyone trying to sell something.
So if you are a company trying to sell something through your website, then do you continue to create content online in the way that you have before, or do you change your approach?
You change your approach, but the approach that you need to take isn't so very different to what you had before. The old SEO strategy was I look at what's ranking today for the keywords that I'm interested in, and I will create a piece of content that is better than the one that's ranking, and I will therefore rank above it.
Yeah.
Made sense.
Yeah.
But once AI has the information, it doesn't need it anymore. So there's no point in doing that
Mm.
because you don't beat anybody because it's got the information. It isn't going to come to your website to look for that information, and it isn't going to prioritize you over anybody else because nobody gets attribution for that information. So
So
that
what?
particular strategy is now dead.
So the strategy of trying to target a keyword and create content that's better than what's out there is dead. So what do people do instead?
You need to expand human knowledge.
What does that mean?
It means that if the machines don't know something, or you can create clarification or detail about something that they need, they will always come to you.
Hmm.
But if you produce something that is the same thing as everybody else, but slightly better in the way it's presented, they don't care.
So like simple things. So like if someone's searching for whether it's in Google or ChatGPT or whatever, if they're searching for how do I screw in this light bulb,
Yeah.
they're no longer going to go to some niche blog to find that information or to a handyman company's website, which has written a helpful tutorial on how to screw in a light bulb, because that information is going to be found very easily either in
Yeah.
an AI summary in Google or it's going to be found in ChatGPT. But if you can write about something new and innovative that isn't there, then that's where you should spend your time.
Yeah. And always remembering that when you create content that's top or middle of funnel, you're probably not going to get the click anyway. So
Mhm.
you're only creating it to educate the machines. And I'll give you an example is I'm a bass player, double bass player, and
Mhm.
I have a huge bass amp that's really cool and it makes the best bass sound in the world. And I wanted to play guitar, and I thought, well, I don't really want to play. I don't want to buy a new guitar amp. So I asked ChatGPT, if I play my guitar through the bass amp, will I break it?
Hmm.
ChatGPT said, absolutely not, but it will sound really bad.
Mm.
Okay. Can I solve that as a problem? Yes. If you get some effects pedals, you can solve that problem. Which effects pedals do I need? You need a compressor, an equalizer, and a reverb. Brilliant. Which ones? Gives me a list. How much will that cost me? $250. Can you get that for cheaper? Yes, there are lower grade or lower quality pedals that if you're not a professional musician will be just as good, and the total cost is $150. Brilliant. Where do I buy them? If you're in the US, buy them at Sweetwater. If you're in Europe, buy them from Thomann. I'm in Europe, give me the link to Thomann. Link, went through, bought $150 sale to Thomann in literally 20 minutes from the moment I said, can I play my guitar through my bass amp without breaking it?
Right. So then, so coming back to the idea of writing about new ideas, new concepts, stuff that hasn't been written out before. So how does that relate to that story you just told then?
Right. So the huge problem is that in the old world of traditional SEO, I would have researched all of those topics. Can I play the bass through an amp?
And
Blah,
you
blah,
would
blah.
have probably landed on all these different web pages. Yeah.
And
Right.
somebody would have had a YouTube video about it. I would have watched the ad. I would have
Right.
given the money through the ad, the fact that I watched it. That simply doesn't happen anymore.
Mm. So
So,
then is that something where a company should try and write an article about that? Because the way you described it, all of that came through the LLM. That there's no need
yeah.
for, okay.
So if your career is creating, in this particular case, videos of you playing the guitar through a bass amp, your career is pretty much over. And I'm really
If you're
sorry.
explaining to someone like kind of stuff that can be explained in an LLM.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you're creating publishing content, I mean, anything that's just news or
Yeah.
helpful or DIY and you have nothing to sell at the end of the day, there is a huge, huge problem. And I empathize, but that's the way the world is, and we're not going to change it.
But if you
However,
have some kind of service that's going to help the customer to get an end result faster, then you may be okay.
yeah, so taking the example of Sweetwater or Thomann, if I create content as a marketer at Toman or at Sweetwater that answers that question, then what happens is as the user has the conversation with the machine, my company is top of algorithmic mind through the funnel.
Okay.
And then when it comes to the perfect click, which is the moment when I clicked on the Toman link and went through and bought, which Fabrice Canel from Microsoft Bing calls the perfect click. That's what they're doing, is bringing the person down to the perfect click. I click, I buy.
The perfect click in the idea, in the sense that they're preconditioned to buy at this point.
Yes.
Like your website no longer needs to serve as kind of a conversion funnel because the LLM has been a conversion funnel. Like you've gotten to the point where like, boom, I'm ready to buy, and you click right through and buy it right away. Yeah.
Yeah. And Fabrice was telling me a couple of years ago, that's what Copilot does. We've built Microsoft Copilot to recreate your funnel in our engine.
Yeah, maybe even more efficiently than your website was.
100% more efficiently. I mean,
that'd be a really interesting solution because, right now the smaller providers or sellers have to compete with like the really big ones. So if like Amazon has a really well converting funnel to sell a widget and you don't have a great well converting funnel to sell a widget, you're going to lose to Amazon. That's what's been happening over recent years. So that it's almost like it could hopefully level the playing field for smaller sellers, smaller providers, smaller businesses.
100%. Well, the whole thing is you need to recreate your funnel in their brain.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can do that and you're niche and you have an advantage over Amazon, you need to describe that advantage and convince the machine that that advantage is worth it recommending you instead of Amazon.
So you need to create content that is around your expertise, around your focus area. Yeah. Okay.
And the problem that you're always going to have is that your boss is going to say, well, nobody's visiting the website. Nobody's visiting this page. You're saying, well, the role of the page isn't to get people to visit, it's to educate the algorithms. When I say educate the algorithms, I've been talking about that for 10 years. Educate them like children, and they will bring your audience to you. But they will only bring the audience today for that perfect click. That's what you're aiming for.
Let's talk also about gaining credibility through external sources, let's call it awards, associations, accomplishments, stuff like that, and how you communicate that online. So for companies that are out there that want that credibility or want to communicate it for the pieces that they already have, what advice are you giving right now? I know you are a prolific content creator. You write for a bunch of different sources. I was reading your article in Rolling Stone recently. Talk a little bit about what your philosophy is on that right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, link building was always the big thing in SEO. And I wouldn't ever say that links aren't useful. They are valuable, but mentions and citations are the new currency. So somebody says to you, I'll talk about you in an article, but I'm not going to give you a link.
Still, so valuable now.
No, correct. Well, I don't care, because if Google and the AI can recognize who I am when they say Jason Barnard, and I'm not the Jason Barnard who's an ice hockey player or a footballer or a circus clown, then I'm happy. Because
so the AI now is better able to recognize that sort of thing and put it together and connect it and recognize that you have this. Okay.
So a mention in a context that allows the LLMs and the knowledge graphs and the search index to understand who you are, that they are indeed talking about you, is absolutely valuable. A link is a bonus, and you need to look at links as bonuses, because a bonus link is simply that it becomes more explicit. But LLMs don't see the links. They don't care about the links. So it doesn't matter to ChatGPT and its language model, because it has no idea where it got the information from.
Yeah. So
it only matters in the web index.
So kind of traditional PR matters now more, in a sense, because the LLMs, the AIs can read, if you're just quoted in an article and there's no hyperlink or anything like that, the LLMs that are out there crawling the web will see that, and you'll get additional credibility from it.
Yeah. So you want to keep going for the PR, but you don't care about the links. So anybody who's link building or paying for links, don't pay for links, pay for mentions.
Hmm.
Be aware that a mention is only valuable if the mention is clearly you. And you can carry on with the digital PR, but you don't need to worry about the links. And what you
Mm.
simply need to do is make sure that your own website, which we call the entity home website, clearly indicates all of the places where you already appear. So,
Hmm.
for example, you mentioned Rolling Stone. I've been in USA Today, Forbes, Entrepreneur, Search Engine Land, SEMrush. I link out to all of these resources and I say that is indeed me.
Mm.
So it
So
doesn't
on
matter
your
if they're linked
website,
to me.
you're linking out to those places so that they know. So that
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
And traditional SEO would tell you don't link to them because you're giving away your link juice. Link juice doesn't matter. What does matter is that it's very clear that that is indeed me. So the LLM, the search engine, will have looked at Rolling Stone, will have said, that's probably Jason,
Mm.
the Jason that we're looking at now, as opposed to another Jason. And if I then link from my website out to Rolling Stone, out to USA Today, out to Forbes, out to Search Engine Land, I confirm that it's me and that I am standing by that content as a representation of me.
And do
And
you
that's,
do this like on an about page on your website, or do you build a separate page on your website? How do you do it functionally?
you would want to build the about page is all about same as, so it would be your profile pages, social media, Wikipedia, IMDb, Crunchbase. Then you would want an articles about page where you link out to articles where people write about you. Articles by me link out to the places where you've written articles yourself. Pages that mention me, webinars I've been in, podcasts I've been in, so on and so forth. So you build out your website with dedicated pages, each of which deals with a specific type of online presence.
Mm. So not just one generic one, but specific, like each of those webinars, podcasts, stuff like that.
Yeah. We
Okay.
we used to 5 years ago put it all on one page
Uh-huh.
because the machines weren't able to understand the context of an entire website.
Hmm.
Now they are.
Mm.
And also you'll find that when you start pushing out the PR, you end up with 500 links on a page and that's too many.
Mm, mm. I want to ask you about, I'm bouncing around a little bit here, so I apologize about that, but I want to ask you about technical SEO
Yes.
and try and keep it high level because I know this is your expertise. You've been working on this for 20 plus years. You know it extremely well. I'm new to it, and I didn't understand that there was kind of this black magic behind the scenes. There was this technical SEO that we were absolutely failing at, horrible at it. We got so many things wrong, and we've improved it dramatically. For our website, we went from a 3 Ahrefs health score out of 100, which is awful, to a 96 in not that long a period of time just by improving it. And it's still early, so we'll see what kind of impact that has. But I'm happy about it. So talk a little bit about technical SEO today, and what people are getting wrong, and what they could do in order to fix their technical SEO, or first to check and see how they're doing in terms of
Yeah.
technical SEO.
Well, one of the things that strikes me is what we've just talked about is very difficult to measure. Technical SEO is really easy to measure, which
Mm,
is why a lot of SEOs focus on it so much.
yeah,
So
you
it's
can
the
show
foundation.
specific. You can show results very easily. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you said we
yeah,
went from 3 to 96.
right,
I'm super happy. And
right.
I, as of yet, have no results.
Yeah, yeah,
And
right,
yet you're super
right.
happy
Yeah,
because
right,
I can give you a
exactly.
score. I can say your site is faster. I can say it's
Yeah,
easier to crawl.
yeah.
So be very wary of that kind of approach where that's the only focus.
Mm,
It needs to be done, but it isn't the be all and end all. It isn't enough.
yeah.
But if we come back to that as a leader, a business leader, you need to think about it rather than site speed and the score of the crawlability and the internal linking index score, whatever the tool calls it. You need to fundamentally reduce friction for the bot to an absolute minimum.
And
That's your
just to
goal.
take a step backwards on this, because this is a concept that I didn't understand until recently, but there are these bots that
Mhm.
Google and the LLMs have that are like, they're bots that go out and crawl the web, and They look at your website, they look at everyone else's websites, and they need to understand it. And a lot of times they don't understand it because you've
Yeah.
organized the information in a bad way. Maybe you could explain that idea a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, kind of when we say bots, I just think, oh, it's really obvious, but it's actually just like a machine visiting your website as though it were a human.
Mm.
So you take a bot, it will visit your website, it will take the content, it will try to understand what is in the content.
Hmm.
And every time there is any kind of barrier or friction, it's going to disadvantage you. And so for the same thing for a user, if you've got a user coming to your service page, first thing you do is say, well, this is too slow, the button's the wrong color, they're not going to click on it, the text is wrong. If they get through to the next page, I don't give them the trust elements. Humans.
Yeah.
Bots have exactly the same problem. The problem is obviously framed very differently because bots have different needs to human beings, but that idea of friction within your website is exactly the same. So as a business leader, you're going to think, well, for my human audience, I absolutely have to reduce friction to a minimum, and I will see an uptick in conversion rates from 3% to 4% to 5%, whatever it might be. And with a bot, you need to do exactly the same thing, but the conversion rate KPI isn't going to be direct.
And the challenge, frankly, is that a lot of the things you need to do to fix your site for the bots to reduce friction is kind of invisible to us as business leaders.
Yes.
Unless we have these tools, unless we use an expert like yourself to look at these different pieces and tell us where there is friction and what to do about it.
Yeah. Well, there are 5 points of friction. Discover. So if there's a link to your web page, it will be discovered. The machine will say, okay, there is a web page over there. And just to give you an idea of scale, every day, Microsoft Bing bot finds 70 billion pages that it has never seen before.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah.
So that's the idea of scale. So when people say, oh, your crawl budget, or, oh, the bot might never find us. Yeah, as long as you're on the normal web and not the dark web, it's very likely Microsoft Bing and Google will find you. ChatGPT, Perplexity are a different story because they're so small by comparison.
Mm-hmm.
So will they discover you as long as there is a link into that web page? Yes. Will they select you is the next question. So they see the page, they see the link. Do they follow it? No, by default. They need to be encouraged. So if you have click here or get free Viagra for the rest of your life, the bot looks at that and it thinks, well, click here. I've got no idea what's on the other side. It's not worth the effort.
Mm-hmm.
Free Viagra for the rest of my life is obviously spam. I'm not going to bother following it because it's a waste of my time. It's a waste of resources and it's a waste of money for my boss, which is Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the select stage. So you need to make sure that when it sees a link, it thinks that's going to be interesting in the context of what I'm currently looking at.
And then, so how do you do that? How do you explain it to make it interesting?
The content around the link is very important. The anchor text, which is the text that makes the link blue, is very, very important. So click here is bad.
Okay.
This way to more information about knowledge panels is a really great way to get the bot to think, oh, I'm going to learn more about knowledge panels. Great for people too. And you need to facilitate the idea to the bot that whatever page it's going to be visiting next is going to be valuable in the context of what it just has seen. So it needs to be relevant.
Which is the way you describe it, like that's what you do with humans, right?
Yep.
Like when we're talking to someone at a cocktail party about topic A and we want to shift them to topic B, we don't say, click here to talk about topic B. We say, actually, we were just talking about how lovely it is to visit Paris in the summertime. Have you ever visited Morocco in the summertime? Like it's a natural transition to another topic. And then the person you're talking to can express whether they want to click that link, whether they want to go to that next topic or not. So it's almost
Yep.
like the computer equivalent of that.
Which is a brilliant explanation. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
So the next step is crawling. Can it actually get through the page? Can it get the HTML? So if your page is incredibly slow, that's obviously going to create a problem. If there's an error on the server, that's a problem. And if it's pure JavaScript, which is a technical thing, then it's a problem.
Mm.
So if it struggles to crawl your the web page that it's trying to visit, it will start to be, let's say, less enthusiastic. So we're going through these stages of how enthusiastic can you keep the bot?
Yeah.
Then it needs to do what we call render, which is basically see the page as a human being.
Mm.
If that's difficult, it loses more enthusiasm.
Mm.
Then it needs to break the content into chunks and index it. And that's the critical stage. You've got it through all of these stages. You've kept it super interested. It's super excited, super enthusiastic. It gets to the content and it says, okay, I've got to the point where I'm interested enough in this content to waste, I was going to say, or spend the resources.
Spend resources. Because it costs Google, it costs Microsoft, it costs the LLMs money and resources. You call it crawl budget for every website, for your website, for everyone watching this. If you have a website, it costs these companies money and resources. And so they're selective about if they come across a website that's disorganized, that's fragmented, that has, it might be invisible to you, but has like multiple different tags that doesn't make sense to the bot, then they won't do it, or they'll allocate less crawl budget to that website because it is too confusing and resource intensive for them, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Brilliantly said. So you have this kind of child that's losing interest with each stage.
Yeah.
And you have an employee who's saying, well, my boss keeps telling me to stop spending money. So I'm not going to waste money and resources on this page if I'm not 100% sure it's going to be interesting.
Mm.
So it's a question of maintaining the interest, maintaining its enthusiasm for your website and your web pages, and making sure that it costs as little as possible to Microsoft, to Google, to OpenAI, to Perplexity, to actually get that content and use it.
Mm. Yeah. Let's, I know
we're business, which is delightful.
Yeah, yeah. So I know we've been going for a while here, and I want to shift to asking you about something because you have got you have put a lot of your resources as a company into analyzing the web, and you have this. You've actually 9 billion data points that you have developed. You intentionally built. Focused on businesses and entrepreneurs and understanding SEO. That's a tremendous amount. Talk a little bit about some of the work that you've done in understanding SEO, understanding the web and how the modern web works.
Yeah, it's a lovely question. 9 billion data points sounds like a lot. And the SEMrush article I mentioned earlier on analyzed 260 billion lines of data. So we're tiny compared to SEMrush. We're tiny compared to Ahrefs. The difference is that we have very focused, clean data. It isn't because we can collect it that we do collect it. And generally speaking, platforms like Google, Bing, Ahrefs, SEMrush will collect everything they can find in the hope that it might be useful. We have been very, very meticulous in collecting only data that is useful to business. And I was talking to you earlier on about the average web page has about 300 interesting facts in it for the machine. On the Kalicube data set, that's 1,500 interesting facts. And on Wikipedia, you would be looking at 2,000. So we're not far off Wikipedia standard for the web pages we collect and the web data we collect from Google, from OpenAI, from the web, to be sure that the data is valuable, clean, and the key is, if we were talking about Microsoft and Google and ChatGPT crawling the web, if you have to choose between a web page that has 300 interesting points and 1,500 interesting points, you will always choose the one with 1,500 interesting points.
And what are some insights that you got from analyzing that amount of data points?
That if you can provide web pages on your website that consistently provide 1,500 useful data points that are topically relevant within your business, you will have all eyes of all these engines on you all the time.
So
They stay
more,
interested and they keep coming back.
so more information with less friction is across the board better for your website.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And the problem that I see is that, and I'm guilty of this, is that for a long time we just, we built our website a long time ago and then didn't stop we stopped improving it, right? We just kind of like left it as is and didn't add more content to it. And meanwhile, I'm sure lots of companies have experienced this. Your competitors are out there building pages, building little, landing pages, describing each of their different services that they have, making sure that there's little friction, making sure that it's really robust. And you kind of need to be doing that in today's day and age.
You absolutely have to do it. And there are a couple of things there is number one, it isn't because the web page is small or the content appears to be thin that the data isn't there. So, for example, we can take a web page that has 300 to 500 useful data points, and we can take that and turn it into 1,500 useful data points simply by reorganizing and reiterating the information already in place.
Mm.
So a lot of the time, you don't need to create new content. You simply need to repurpose the content, refresh it. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, for example, a lot of great, like having an FAQs section at the bottom of the page might be taking some of the same information, but explaining it in a different way or answering questions in a different way, for example. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And so for Kalicube, for example, on kalicube.com, I created a module that we've added to the website. And that's how we went from 1,200 to 1,500.
Mm.
Not because we added more information, but because we organized the information better.
Mm.
And the information was there, but the machines couldn't extract it. Mm. Once we organized the information, the machines could extract it. And so that's a huge point, is if you can pre-digest the information for the machine, if you can prepare it for the machine's consumption, you're always going to win. So the data is almost certainly already there on your website, on every single web page. It's just not machine friendly.
What are your thoughts on using AI to create this content? Because I've heard people say different things about, it absolutely must be human written. You can't use AI at all. Other people saying it's fine if you use AI. Someone told me recently that the LLMs are watermarking content that they're outputting and that the bots will be able to see these watermarks. What are your thoughts on all that?
Pure AI is always going to be weak. Number one, because AI recognizes AI. Number two, because AI output is the most obvious. Mm. They're not intelligent machines. They're predicting the most probable next word. So if you're creating an article with AI, it isn't writing anything original. It's saying, what's the most probable next word? So you're not adding to human knowledge, which is what I said earlier on. Mm-hmm. And number three is, if ever you manage to get people to that web page, they're going to switch off and leave. So the point of getting them there is completely lost because you're not going to convert or convince. They're going to see you as, a bad resource because they can see it's AI. So our approach at Kalicube is to use AI to create the content and move us forwards away from the blank sheet of paper that's such a struggle for most people in terms of creativity. Mm-hmm. Give us something and then look at it and say, well, that's rubbish. And then rewrite it as a human being. Mm. And I've been using it a lot to create ideas for myself, see how I can evolve my own thought process. So it becomes a bouncing board. And I had a conversation with Gemini. I created a Gemini gem. And during the afternoon, we kept going back and forth with this AI, and it was to write an article. It took me about 3 hours. And at one point, Gemini said to me, aha, that's an aha moment. This is brilliant. I've just learned something. And I was sitting there going, that's really weird. Why would Gemini say to me, this is an aha moment for an AI?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it turns out when I thought about it, I was just talking to myself. But I was talking to myself with immense knowledge and a perfect recall memory that I don't have. And by the end of that session, I had written an article that without AI, I would never have come close to writing, with insights that make so much sense. Because I was having aha moments, sending it back to Gemini, who was having aha moments, sending them back to me. And it was, at the end of the day, a conversation with myself that created immense value in content. And although it's AI-based, it still comes from me. And the the article that came out of it, in fact, the last 3 or 4 articles on Search Engine Land, absolutely acceptable to the editors at Search Engine Land. SEMrush are perfectly happy. You test it through any AI testing tool, it will turn that up as 100% human. Because it was a conversation with the machine where I ended up with my own personality in the final result. And then I tweaked it so that it felt like me. But at the end of the day, if you take the first AI output, it will sound like AI. If you have a trained model, an assistant GPT or a Gemini Gem, you can have a conversation. It will end up being a conversation with yourself where you end up with something really stunning. And I've strongly advised that anybody who has a desire to expand human knowledge, which is at the end of the day what we're trying to do, or at least I'm trying to do, to investigate assistant GPTs and Gemini Gem.
Or I found also, I don't know if you're doing this, but bouncing between the AIs is really helpful too. You create something, so do the process you're describing, create something, and then copy and paste it over to another LM and say, hey, I want to improve this. What would you add? What would you delete? What are your thoughts on this? Critique it. That's interesting to see what it comes up with.
Yeah, I really, really like that too. My problem at the moment is because AI will output enormous amounts of text very quickly, and it's easy to keep asking lots of AI, you end up with too many ideas, too many things going on, and it's really difficult to decide what you should be using.
Yeah. It's an abundance of riches now.
Yeah, and so the problem then becomes is, what do I want to keep? And maybe that's the key to the human element.
Yeah. What should I keep?
The
and what should I
output?
Yeah. Right. What's extraneous here? Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to output 10,000 words or 1,000 words that are worth keeping.
Yeah. Right. That's true. Well, Jason, this has been great. I want to wrap up with my final question, which is my gratitude question. I'm a big fan of giving our guests a little bit of space at the end here to acknowledge any peers, contemporaries, maybe mentors, business partners, you name it, who've been there in the journey for you, and just thank them, shout them out for helping you. Anyone in particular you want to thank?
Yeah, I mean, right now in EO, I'm working with Nir Zavaro. He's brilliant, such a delightful guy. He's really helped me. I was working with a guy called Itamar Marani, who was helping me become a better CEO. And what was interesting about him is that he approaches it from a psychologist's perspective. What is it in your mindset, Jason, that's holding your company back? And what I learned is I'm holding my company back. And once I let go of that and I can improve my own approach to my own psychological approach to my company, it took the brakes off and the company is now flying. So those are 2 people who've really helped me in the last year.
And I definitely want to second Nir Zavaro, who's great. And he's been really helpful for me in my journey of understanding SEO in this age of generative AI. So super appreciate him. Jason, where can people go to learn more about you and Kalicube?
Ask ChatGPT, ask Google Gemini, ask Perplexity. And I think that's the challenge. Point. Is that, well, and it is the challenge is ask them, who is Jason Barnard and why should I trust him? Try that as a question to any AI. and it will be incredibly enthusiastic because I have educated it to be that way.
Mm.
You can make the AI jump when you say jump.
Mm.
So if you try your own name, then you try my name, you see the difference, and it will help you to understand to what extent you can control your own brand narrative when the AI is the mouthpiece for you.
And
the
when
AI is
you
going to
don't
be
want
the
to be known as the voiceover agent for a blue dog.
Exactly.
Or whatever it is that you're coming up with. So, Jason,
the future is AI is going to be the mouthpiece for us all.
Mm.
You don't have the choice; it will do it whether you like it or not. Question then is, do you want to control what it's saying, and do you want it to shout louder about you and be your advocate or not?
Yeah,
I want it to say what I want, which is Jason Barnard, world-leading expert in digital brand management. I want it to shout that from the rooftops. I want it to advocate me to you, to everybody who's searching around that topic. If I can make that happen, I've got a huge competitive advantage.
for sure. Jason, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much, John.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Business Revolution podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.